just signing on for the first time. We ready? All right, here we go.
We return, we return, we return, we return, we return, we return again. We return, we return, we return, we return, we return, we return again and again to love. We return again to love. We return, we return, we return, we return, we return, we return again. We return, we return, we return, we return, we return, we return again and again to you.
We return to Shalom.
Shalom. A time of renewal.
I return to my friends.
I return to my friends.
I return to my friends.
We return to
Elohim. We return to love.
We return to God Elohim. Shana Tova.
I return to my campus.
We return to
Introspection.
family, song, new traditions.
We return, we return, we return, we return, we return, we return again. We return, we return, we return, we return, we return, we return again and again to you. We return again to you.
Welcome, everyone, as we return for our Torah and Haftarah service. During this time, it's so good to see all of you on Zoom. That is why I actually have a laptop open in front of me so that I can see you. And as many of you know, throughout the months, we've encouraged people to often go into gallery view on the top right of your Zoom screen in order to see the members of our community. I'm in the sanctuary with Rabbi Sherman and Cantor Zell and Noah Aronson, with our musicians Noam and Ben and Victor. Once again, it's empty of chairs, but it's good to see you on the screen as we gather as a community. Some of you on the screen, I see were at yoga at 8 o'clock. Some of you joined us for the morning blessings at 9. And now I see some new faces joining us at 10 o'clock for Torah and Haftarah. This, of course, is the service that was the most challenging in some sense, because we're used to group aliyot. And so we're still going to do them this year, just a little differently. We also have our Torah readers and Haftarah readers, a collection of individuals who worked very hard in preparation for this day. And so we've recorded them so that they could continue to sing in front of our community. So I'm glad you're with us as we begin. Let's begin with the nigun, with Noah and the cantor, just to warm up once again as we return.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol Hashana, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol Hashana, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
So hopefully you took a good break between the morning blessings and now, because this is the time in our service that typically the greeters would close the doors and ask people not to leave or enter, and I would ask people to rise, because it is at this time we receive the Torah from the ark. And so if you're home, I invite you to rise if you're able, or at the very least begin to set up straight with a certain level of intention, feet flat on the floor, as we receive our gift that the greatest joy in life can come from service, dedication, meaning. And so we continue with the words. Ein kamocha.
Ein kamocha va'Elohim Adonai ve'ein kema'asecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. Adonai os le'amo yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim v'Rav Chesed ve'emet, Notzer Chesed la'alafim, Noseh avon v'fesha.
O God, compassionate, gracious, endlessly patient, loving and true, show mercy.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum Lechanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed Ve'emet, Notze Chesed La'alafim, Nosei Avon V'Fesha.
O God, forgiving evil, defiance, and wrongdoing, granting pardon. A third time we chant these words.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed Ve'emet, Notze Chesed La'alafim, Nosei Avon V'Fesha, V'Chatza V'Nakeh.
Adonai, Adonai, God compassionate, gracious, endlessly patient, loving, and true, showing mercy to the 1,000th generation, forgiving evil, defiance, and wrongdoing, granting pardon.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'nora Shemo. Gadlul Adonai iti, uneromema Shemo yachdav.
Let's all be seated as we continue with our reading of Torah. And as you well know, each and every year we read from the book of Genesis, Genesis chapter 22. We read that scary story of the binding of Isaac, Isaac's near-death experience, something that certainly resonates this year as frailty and fragility and uncertainty pervade our world. What's interesting to note is not only is Isaac saved, but we learn that when Isaac is bound, the angels cry at witnessing what is occurring in front of them. But according to the rabbis, the tears of the angels do wind up descending into Isaac's eyes. And that's why we learn that Isaac's eyes are dimmed. He doesn't see as well, and we learn this later in the text when he's fooled by his sons when they come in front of him, and he can't really see which one is in front of him, Jacob or Esau. But even though his eyes are physically dimmed and he doesn't see as well, his perception is actually, in some ways, more clear from this near-death experience. As he descends the mountain, and we're told begins to learn a core value that we discussed last night. He goes right to yeshiva, and he embraces meaning and hope in the world, and then falls in love and marries his wife, and Rebecca, and gives forth creation to the tribes, our people, leading us to this very day. And so once again, from out of chaos and uncertainty comes love, meaning, and service. And so we're going to now continue with our reading of Genesis chapter 22. And for the first aliyah, actually, Cantor, would you like to call upon our reader, our virtual reader?
I would be delighted to call upon our virtual reader. For our first aliyah, it's my honor to call forth our student Ethan Burak to Torah. Ya'amod Yitzchak Chaim ben Yaakov v'brana la'aliyah rishona.
And as Ethan virtually ascends our bima, I'm going to ask you to ascend the bima as well. I'm looking down at you on my computer screen, but I should look up at the camera as well, I know, so that you can see me speaking to you. But I really want to call those forward by asking you to raise your hand this year on Zoom, or raising the Shalom card that I believe was in the basket that many of you picked up or had delivered from the temple for each aliyah. And for the first Aliyah on Rosh Hashanah, we would like to call upon anyone who has survived a near-death experience or a dangerous experience, whether it be a surgery, an illness, an accident, an experience that brings them to this day with a heightened sense of gratitude for the gift of life. And traditionally, this blessing is called Gomel. And so if you are here to recite Gomel, if you'll simply raise your hand, and we'll kind of screen through Zoom. We're on 3 different links this morning, and so we don't see all of the members of our community. But I do see some of you raising your hands, and so if you have a prayer book at home, you can certainly join me in the first blessing. And if you're in the prayer book, you can find the blessings for Torah on page 230, as together we say, Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah. Our first reader.
ויהי אחר הדברים האלה, והאלוהים נישא את אברהם, ויאמר אליו אברהם, ויאמר הנני, ויאמר קח נא את בנך את יחידך, אשר אהבת את יצחק, ולך לך אל ארץ המוריה, והעלהו שום לעולה על אחד ההרים, אשר אומר אליך. וישכם אברהם בבוקר, ויחבוש את המורו, ויקח את 2 נעריו איתו, ואת יצחק בנו, ויבקץ עולה, ויקם וילך אל המקום אשר אמר לו האלוהים. ביום השלישי וישא אברהם את עיניו, וירא את המקום הרחוק.
Beautifully done, Ethan.
Yasher koach.
And so those who are with me for this first Aliyah, let's join together, as well as everyone here in the sanctuary. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. And for all of those individuals who stood up or raised a card for surviving a life-threatening episode or serious illness or incident, we ask for God's prayers upon you with the words, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu. Our God, God of our forefathers and mothers, we thank you for granting favor upon these individuals who are here this day of Rosh Hashana 5781, incredibly grateful. And we ask that you continue to grace them and grant them favor. May they be blessed with good health, with safety, with contentment, with peace. And let us all say, Amen. Let us now pause for a prayer for those who are ill. And before we continue with the Misha Berach prayer and be able to open up the chat room to invite anyone to type in the names of individuals they're thinking of, let us continue with the prayer that we've been reciting throughout this pandemic on Shabbat evening, the prayer of hope during this pandemic. Rabbi Sherman, will you lead us?
We are frightened, God, worried for our loved ones, worried for our world. Helpless and confused, we turn to you, seeking comfort, faith, and hope. Teach us, God, to turn our panic into patience and our fear into acts of kindness and support. Our strong must watch out for our weak, our young must take care of our old. Help each one of us to do our part to halt the spread of this virus. Send strength and courage to the doctors and nurses in the front lines of this battle. Fortify them with the full force of their healing powers. Send wisdom and insight to the scientists working day and night across the world to discover healing treatments. Bless their efforts, God. Fill our leaders with the wisdom and the courage to choose wisely and act quickly, to help us, God, to see that we are one world, one people who will rise above this pandemic together. Send us health, God. Watch over us. Grace us with your love. Bless us with your healing light. Hear us, God. Heal us, God. Amen.
Let us open up the chat room if we're able.
Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, Yivarech, et hacholim. Mi shebeirach Avoteinu, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, Yivarech, et hacholim. Avoteinu, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, Yivarech, et hacholim.
So before the second Aliyah, I just want to share a personal word, especially with a presidential election fast approaching. And that is that we live, as you know, although in what I consider a dangerously polarized society. And for the first time, I just want to say it saddens me that in some ways I am seeing that division take place right here at our temple. And at this time, I want us to remember that we Jews are a small community, only 2% of the population. And we can't let politics divide us, as passionate as we are. We are a passionate people, but one of the greatest strengths of the Jewish people has always been how we differ, that we foster disagreement and respect it. For instance, in the Talmud, we have varying opinions codified on the very same page. In the book of Proverbs, we read, iron sharpens iron. We want diversity in our community. Debate, argue, but be respectful and stick together. And that's what I hope that we do, even with the divisive election approaching. And I hope that we not only vote in large numbers, but get deeply involved in the public square, just as Jews have done throughout the centuries, in numbers larger than our percentage. Because if Judaism is the articulation of our values, politics is what enables us to implement them. Politics are not dirty in Judaism. We should be involved in the political process. We should be proud of our temple committees who engage in the public square. Committees that have developed out of the passions of the individuals of our temple community. Individuals seeking to take their Jewish values and implement them in our world. And so for the second Aliyah, I would like to call up all of our social justice committees that no matter where we stand politically, should be incredibly proud of the engagement of this community to fight for justice, to tutor in prisons, feed the hungry, visit the sick, welcome the immigrant, care for the environment, fight for racial equality. And the list goes on and on and on. People seeking to implement their Jewish values in the world. And so for the second Aliyah, I would like to call up anyone who's engaged in one of our caring community initiatives or social justice initiatives. And I would like to call up anyone who wants to begin a new initiative this year, who wants to implement their values in the world. Because as we talked about last night, the world needs us, especially at this time. And so for the second Aliyah, raise your hand or raise your card if you've engaged in social justice in our community this year or plan to do so in the year ahead, the second Aliyah.
And it's my honor to call up our student, Brooks Karofsky, to Torah to chant. Ya'amod Baruch Levi ben Yehuda u'Miriam la'aliyah shniya. Let's join together in the blessing before the chanting of the Torah.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
And Brooks, here we go.
Vayomer Avraham el Niarav Shivu lachem po im hachamor va'ani v'hanar nelcha ad kol v'nishtachave v'nashuva alechem Vayikach Avraham et hatzei ha'olam vayasem vayitzchak beno vayitkach biyado et ha'esh ve'et ha'ma'achelet vayelchu shnehem yachdav vayomer Yitzchak el Avraham aviv vayomer aviv vayomer hineni veni Vayomer hine ha'esh v'ha'hitzim v'ayehaseh le'olah Vayomer Avraham Elohim yireh lo haseh le'olah beni vayelchu shnehem yachdav.
We say Yasher Koach and join together in the blessing after the recitation of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
And before we continue, I want to make sure people are raising their hands who have engaged in social justice and say that I hope your deeds and our words of Torah inspire someone in our community today. Inspire them to deeds of justice. Inspire them to mitzvot, with the hopes that one day perhaps there'll be a politician, social justice worker, maybe even a Supreme Court justice. And so let's join with these words, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu. O God, God of our fathers and mothers, bless all these members of our temple community who have heeded the call, tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, justice, justice shall you pursue. Strengthen them as they work tirelessly towards the day when all will be united, treated fairly, and at peace. Grant them health and strength and wisdom as they lead our people to be a light unto the nations. And let us all say, Amen. And now for our third and final aliyah, a favorite. I would like to call up everyone who has been to Israel during this past year. We had about 5 temple trips this last year. I know our empty nester trip and women's trip and family trip, and there was men's trip. So, and I know many people are there. I know Danya is even on from Jerusalem today. A number of people are coming in from Israel. And so I'm glad you are with us. Let's continue by calling up our third reader.
For our third aliyah, it's my honor to call forth Eliza Kalis to Torah. Ta'amod Alitzia bat vegala va'aria la'aliyah shlishi.
And Cantor, will you lead us in the blessing? Actually, Ryan, we can hear you.
Yeah,
Our rabbinic intern Ryan is in the Beit Midrash. Can you? Perfect.
Hi.
Will you lead us in the first blessing? I don't know if it's in front of you. Do you have a prayer book in front of you?
Luckily, we're in the Beit Midrash, and I think I can find one.
Hey, wow.
So let's remind everyone what page we're on. So that you can remind me what
230.
page
This is our new rabbinic intern, Ryan. This is called Trial by Fire, when Rabbi Sissenwein just surprises him
I was
completely.
warned this might happen. Let's join together in the blessing. Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Vayavohu el hamakom asher amar lo Elohim. Vayiven sham Avraham et hamizbeach v'aroch et ha'etzim. Vayakod et Yitzchak beno vayasem oto al hamizbeach mimal la'etzim. Vayishlach Avraham et yado, vayikach et hamachelet, lishchot et beno. Vayikra elav maleach Adonai min hashemayim, vayomer Avraham, Avraham, vayomer hineni, vayomer al tishlach yadecha el hanar, ve'al ta'aslo me'uma, ki ata yadati, kirei Elohim ata, ve'lo hasachta, et mincha et yichdicha mimeni. Vayisa Avraham et einav, vayar v'hine ayil ahar, nechaz basva bekarnav, vayelech Avraham, vayikach et ha'ayil, vayelehu le'olah, tahat beno.
Yasher Koach, and we join together for the blessing after. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
And for all those with a hand in the air or a card in the air, we bless you with these words, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotinu. Bless all of these individuals who have traveled to the land of Israel. May they continue to embrace the lessons taught by the pioneers, to build and be rebuilt, to dream and create, and to remain true to the ancient call of our tradition. May they be blessed with strength, health, and peace, and let us all say, Amen. So we have a treat. Can we, is Naama here?
Yes,
Hey,
I am.
this is amazing. So, never have I been able to celebrate Rosh Hashana with my colleague from Haifa of our sister congregation, Ohel Avraham. This is another one of those blessings of Zoom. So it is so good to see you. I know, and many people on our Zoom call may not realize that Israel is in a second lockdown as of Rosh Hashanah. And I was just hoping that you could just share a little bit about what's happening in terms of the lockdown and how it affected your Rosh Hashanah.
First of all, what a beautiful service, and I'm so happy and surprisingly uplifted by seeing TBE and missing you guys all so much. Lockdown on Rosh Hashanah is something that we thought needs to happen, dreaded it will happen, and now we are experiencing it. It's not easy. We're allowed to go 1 kilometer to services, and except for that, you're allowed only to stay home, except for all kinds of things, very specific things you're allowed to do. But we prayed in a hybrid manner. We had services on Zoom and up to 30 people in our sanctuary in capsules of 10, pre-registered with masks. But I can tell you, we already had our services this morning, and they were beautiful, and there was such intention and such kavanah. And we mentioned you guys when we spoke about the shofar and how we're all in this together and how amazing it is that we have this friendship and this connection. Even when we can't really leave our houses, we can share in prayer with you.
That is really amazing. It is so good to see you. Can I ask, I know you have children, what is happening with school? I know we have a number of holidays coming forward, so they're off anyway.
Well, everyone is off because it seems that our schools were reopened too quickly, and that created a surge in the pandemic, the way people are sick. And so everything is shut down now, including schools, for at least 3 weeks, probably much longer. So the kids are going to school through Zoom, or just trying to learn something through Zoom. But I think that they're learning that you're doing the best you can with what you have, and they're learning social responsibility. And I think that's a good value too.
Thanks. So you just saw me put Ryan, our rabbinic intern, who I look forward to introducing to you, Naama, on the spot. So I'll put you on the spot as well. I don't get out on Rosh Hashanah. I can never see other rabbis. So this is just absolutely thrilling. Can you share a little word about perhaps what you shared with your congregation this morning, or Gabi, in terms of a message for your community?
Yes, I will quote Gabi actually because he couldn't be here. We talked about the shofar and how if you look into the shofar, you can only see a tiny little hole and you can't see the light coming through because the shofar is twisted. But if you open your heart and you're willing to take the effort and blow air, your neshama in, then a beautiful sound comes out that opens the heart and opens the heavens. So even if we don't see the light at the end of this, there is a light. This too will pass. We will be able to celebrate together in person. So we have our job this year is to hold on to hope and not to give up on this year. Beautiful and wonderful things can still happen this year, and it's up to us to keep this hope alive and to make sure we make the most we can out of this year.
Naama, thank you so much for making time for us, your early evening, our morning. We look forward to visiting you, God willing, soon in Haifa. Our whole community wishes a Shana Tova, a good year of health and peace to Ohel Avraham. If you'll please send our love, let's everyone kind of give a heart tap to Ohel Avraham. Thanks again, Shana Tova.
Shana Tova v'toda rabba.
And in our sanctuary, we're now going to continue with our Haftarah. Ryan, can you introduce our Haftarah this morning?
Of course, Shana Tova and Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's great to be here. The verses we will hear in a moment are from the book of Isaiah. The book of Isaiah is one that illustrates the value of holiness, righteousness, and bringing close to God. At the beginning of the book of Isaiah, Isaiah experiences destruction, exile, and isolation. But as the book continues, he searches and ultimately finds hopeful intentions that he can hold on to. From Tisha B'Av, the day that the Jewish community remembers the destruction of the temple, all the way up until today, Rosh Hashana, it is customary to read the book of Isaiah on Shabbat in order to keep us and bring us close and root us into our holiday cycle, to bring us from brokenness into hope. This book teaches us the importance of hope and digging down into oneself to bring that hope out into our own consciousness and into our world. We use the story as a symbol of an authentically human journey, moving from despair, damage, and hurt to a place of hope, desire, and faith. Perhaps this is a message that we can connect to right now. The particular words you will hear this morning translate to this: seek God while God can be found. Call to God while God is near. Let the wicked give up their ways and their sinful plans. Let them turn back to God, for God will pardon them. To our God, for God freely forgives. As we begin this new year together, we are asked to reflect, repent, and work to be better than we were last year. We must work to rid ourselves of our evil intentions and bring ourselves into 5781 with a refreshed vision of who we are and where we fit into the world. Through the work of Teshuvah we take on during this time in our Jewish calendar, we can bring out our most whole selves this year. And as long as we are doing Teshuvah and bringing God close, whatever that might mean for you and your family, I hope that we are accepted for who we are and for our efforts. So during this time, my blessing is that we are all accepted for where we are on our journey and for where we are hoping to go.
And so now we listen to Jacob Inbar, and Sasha Stern will be reading these words from Isaiah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar binvim tovim veratza v'divreichem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'invieh ha'emet v'tzedek.
Dirshu Adonai bechimateo kira'uhu bichoto karov ya'azov rasha dorko ve'ish avin machshevotav v'yashov el Adonai v'irachamechu ve'el Eloheinu ki arbeh lisloach ki lo machshevotai machshevotechem ve'lo darchechem dirachai ne'um Adonai ki gavehu shamayim me'aretz kein gavehu dirachai midarchechem umachshevotai mimachshevotechem ki ka'asher yerei hageshem v'chasheleg min hashamayim v'shama lo yashuv ki im hirva et haaretz v'cholida v'hitzmicha v'natan zera lazoreya v'lechem lachel
Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzor kol ha'olamim, tzadik b'chol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer ve'oseh, hamdaber umkayeh, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek, al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al hanviim ve'al Yom hazikaron hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu lechavod ultifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach umvarchim otach yiparach shimcha b'fi kol chai Tamid le'olam va'ed, udvarcha emet, ve'kayam la'ad, Baruch ata Adonai, melech kol ha'aretz, mekadesh Yisrael, ve'yom hazikaron.
So since our Torah readers and Haftarah readers could not hear a good Yashar Koach from all of us after doing such a great job, let's, on our screens at least, I don't know what we call this, jazz hands, I don't know, raise the roof, some sort of heart tap to demonstrate our pride in their accomplishment and our appreciation. May by adhering to these prophetic words of justice, we bring peace to our world. And so Ryan, if you'll lead us, Od Yavo Shalom.
Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam.
So we have a full day. We hope you'll join us. TGIHH will begin at 1 o'clock. Many of our shofar services will be outside this afternoon. But then moving backwards, we continue here at 11 o'clock in 10 minutes on a different link. So we hope you'll take a quick break and come back. We'll continue at 11 with our High Holy Day prayers. Rabbi Sherman will be delivering the sermon. And then those who missed my sermon last night will be able to hear it at 12 o'clock after this next service so that everyone can engage in our Book of Life project. Hopefully you received your question yesterday based on one of God's 4 questions asked in heaven. You'll hear more about that through the High Holy Days. But let's conclude now before coming back at 11 o'clock with Let There Be Love.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Stand up, stretch, go outside on this extraordinarily beautiful day, have a snack, but we join back together in 10 minutes at 11 o'clock. See you soon, everyone.